Hello, ladies. It's Wednesday. Welcome back. Welcome back. How's everybody doing?
Fabulous. It's hump day.
Guess what, guys? It's officially 2 weeks that I've been moved in Dallas. 2 weeks. Yay! This is the first day that I didn't sweat my face off because it was 70 degrees outside and not 186 per usual. But Dallas is feeling good, ladies. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like I got a different kind of energy out here.
Well, yeah, you're partying like all the time.
Partying.
You're like, and flaunting it on the Instagram and tagging people.
On the Instagram. Well, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. This is That's What She Said. It's Wednesday. We are back for another episode called Decisions. Happy to be back with you. We're going to just dive into some, content per usual of things that we wish we knew earlier when we were getting started in our careers and in life. And somehow, somewhere, I think we've talked about decision fatigue before, but somehow, somewhere, we have the aha moment and the realization that every single decision that we make has a positive or negative reaction. There's a consequence to it. Decisions are such an important part of decision making. Is such an important part of growing, maturing, all of those things. So Patty had sent some things to our group chat literally about decision making and kind of the psychology of decision making. So Patty, talk to us about what inspired this theme today. I want to hear, vividly what you were going through to say this is what we need to talk about.
Well, usually when my friends don't invite me to events, I'm sorry. What I do, which is reading. And of course, I thought about you guys while you left me out. So I went ahead and was, I was just thinking a lot, and I think a lot about a lot of things, but also that intense workshop that I went through that I shared some of those details with you guys has really got me putting new things in action, changing things systematically. And it got me thinking a lot about the power of a decision. Everything starts with a decision. This ability to be decisive, this ability to make a decision, this ability to know what you want, the clarity that comes with that. And let's say you don't exactly know what you want. It's about making a decision and sticking with that decision. It's also that many of the results or the reality that we're living in right now is a manifestation of the decisions that we've made. So I don't know how many things are more important relative to wondering, hey, what could I have known when I was younger? What if I knew this 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 minutes ago, what would I have done differently? At the stage of life where I'm in right now, I do a lot of that thinking. It reminds me on a personal note of my mom. She was right about almost everything that I always thought she was wrong about. We think we know everything. You grow up, you realize your mom was right about a lot of things. And there were decisions that I could have made had I listened to that wisdom. You might think about spending habits. People like Nasima. I was just looking at Nasima's recent post. She posted her value of her investments. She started not too long ago. Her consistently has her net worth well over $740,000, maybe even higher than that. That was just the account that she showed. And I thought about, when did she make the decision to be so public about what she's doing? How has that decision helped her business? When did she make the decision to be more disciplined? How does she make decisions every day on not to buy certain things because of the greater goal that she has in front of her? Everything is about a decision. I just kind of went through that, spiral. So I think about that a lot. I think about the way that my really good friends made the decision to be at a presidential suite at a Dallas Cowboys game and not tell me about it ahead of time. And so, I think about these decisions and how they impact us every single day and how they make others feel. No, I'm jealous. I'm jealous of your love affair in Dallas, but I'll be there soon. So decisions are important. And I think relative to what we've talked about before, if you are looking at how you make decisions, it starts with how you make decisions about yourself every single day. What time am I going to, not a single one of us on this panel, including myself, are serious about making changes in our life from a business and personal performance level if we're not making the decision to sleep more, if we're not making the decision to stay well hydrated, if we're not making the decision to cut out distractions. The decision-making process starts with yourself as your person, and then of course bleeds into many other areas of our lives. You're not going to be a great decision maker in business if you're not a great decision maker under your own roof. So we always start with that. So I'll kick it off with that, Kehlani, and let me know where you want to take it.
Well, as you're talking, I was kind of reviewing that screenshot that you had sent to the group chat. And can you make sure I say his name right? But Daniel Kahneman or Kahneman?
I think that's fine. I don't know.
I'm not exactly sure, but he literally said, I quote, nothing in life is as important as you think it is while you're thinking about it, which I felt was really, really deep. So, I wonder if while we're making decisions, how much we kind of overinflate the things we're making decisions about. Everything seems so important and dire, kind of in these moments. So, when I think about decision making, I think that there's levels to decisions. And actually there's this chart that Jeff Bezos uses when making business decisions in Amazon. And the chart actually kind of it breaks down in 4 quadrants, the importance versus the urgency of the decision. And he talks about, obviously, the more important and the more urgent the decision, the more people are involved in making the decision and the more time they take in evaluating what decision to be made. And then the less urgent, those are the tend to be the quicker decisions, bless you, the quicker decisions, and the more independent decisions, right? The things that don't necessarily need as much input. And that's actually something that I've implemented in my own life and in my own business. So I guess to get this thing started, I think it's kind of acknowledging what things are actually decisions and what decisions have been made for you for so long. So if I take this all the way back, and think about how I was raised when I was young, I didn't actually have to make very many decisions. My parents told me where to go, what to do, what to wear. I had a schedule, I had a routine, I had structure, I had rules. I had all those things. And so when I, started to mature, I started to realize which decisions I got to make for myself, right? So I guess the first thing I want to talk about, I'm going to bring this all the way back. I'm kind of giving us a roundabout way to look and understand decisions. But what was when did you start to gain awareness around the things that you can make decisions about? I think is the first thing, and acknowledging, what do I actually have control over? And following the theme for radical self-responsibility, the answer is actually a whole lot. So I'm going to stop with those initial thoughts, but let you guys, chime in there.
Well, I mean, you started with the quote from a book. Nothing in life is as important as you think it is while you're thinking about it. And I think it's important to remember the author. He's the author of this book, Thinking Fast and Slow. And I've had this book for a few years, read it a long time ago. It's big, it's long, but it's very good it's about decision making. And I have to say that the quote itself, I think, has a very philosophical or psychological perspective. I don't think it's necessarily applies to the quick decision-making process you have to do when you're talking about a business setting, or even, I guess you can think about it to your question. If you're a child, right, and your first decision was whether or not you're going to eat the peas or whatever, the solid foods that your mom's putting on the table, well, you are aware that you're making a choice, because some kids are throwing that, they might not be consciously aware, but they might be throwing that potato across the room like, no, bring back the, grapes instead or whatever. So you're making a choice, and those choices are not important. But I think the example you gave of one of the first quotes on that list about what you're thinking about it is never as important as it is when you're actually thinking about it, has more of a philosophical spin to it. Because often we're not thinking about things while we're doing them. We're thinking about them in hindsight. And when you're looking back and you're reflecting on a decision that you've made, then it's no longer as important to the process, right? So maybe the quote itself is challenging you to think more, to think more before you act, because most of the time we're reflecting, and the wisdom is kind of derived through the process of reflection as opposed to being applied during the decision making process. That was my thought about the quote you brought up.
Which is interesting because I thought a little different about the quote. I thought about it from an emotional standpoint, right? A lot of the things that we're thinking about are never as important as while we're thinking about it, meaning that sometimes we can make decisions or have feelings about things in the moment, right? And then maybe it's our feelings about a certain thing are not as valid, like think about it. When something happens and you're about to make a decision, your feelings can really truly play you to the left or to the right. And so to me, I took it probably because I think in my life I've made some pretty emotional decisions and I've had to really, really, really work on how I allow others to make me feel, which those feelings can sometimes control me in a sense, and being able to bring myself back to say it's not as important as I think it is in this moment while I'm thinking about it. If I take a beat, if I take a second, maybe if I take a day and come back and revisit, I'll realize that it really wasn't that serious, but I got my feelings hurt or I felt offended in that moment. And I can't even tell you how many times in my life when I'm in a fence in a moment, I respond and I say what's on my mind. And then later I'm like, I really could have handled that situation way better. So that's kind of how I interpreted it.
Mm-hmm. Now, Nasima, I know you're mobile, so let me give you a second to go ahead and chime on in there.
Hopefully you can hear me okay. I actually thought about it differently. I thought about it like it's not about the thinking of the decision. It's really the important thing is actually making a decision, because I know so many people are like indecisive, and that's the most important part. Um, but when you were talking about Patty, about like making decisions as a kid, and I have the honor of having a 1-year-old, and she makes decisions about her life every day. So it does start really, really early. But I answer your question, Kaylani. I remember like having to make like those first decisions about my life when I was in elementary, middle school. Like I had set myself up to be on a certain path to get into a certain level of university, because I was taught like that was my path. Like get into a good school, get a good job. And I remember having to make decisions around my educational choices in school and curriculum, and that being my own decision and my own path pretty early on. So that to answer your question, yeah, those decisions and that the decision making for your life, I feel like start early and can have ripple effects. Is like, what if I didn't go to that middle school or high school? But those things have impacts like way further down.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense. As we're talking about this, I'm kind of like thinking about how I even make decisions, like what drives my decision making. Um, the first thing for me is integrity. That's the first thing I think about when making decisions is integrity. The second thing I think about immediately is the outcome of the decision. And one of the things I learned, because I think a lot of people struggle with analysis paralysis. And that's something that we see in Wire all of the time. Like, I want to do this, I think about this, I have this information, but then I'm stuck. And really, the other side of on the other side of them being stuck, or the solution to getting unstuck, is simply action. Right? A lot of people just can't decide to even take action. And so when I think about that decision making process for me, one of the things like I've implemented is how fixable is it? If this is the wrong decision, is it fixable? Right. And so if I make a decision that happens to be the wrong decision, am I able to make progress even making that wrong decision? Right. And how much am I risking until I find out that I've made the wrong decision? And the reality is like a lot of times we're never even really going to know. But I've wrapped my head around the fact that if I know I'm making a decision in integrity, that there's nothing I can't fix or learn from. And I think the people get stuck, you know, in making decisions simply based out of fear of either success or fear of either failure. fear in general, where you can't even rationalize to yourself what would happen if you made a decision to do something, do a thing, to make a commitment, or whatever the case may be. So I've really worked myself to a point as an adult where I really feel like everything is fixable. And if it's not something that I can fix, it's something that I've learned from. And it was something that I needed to learn. And really kind of getting out of this mindset that, I can really direct my life and my path in the way that I think, when there are so many external factors that play a part, right? There are the controllables, control the controllables, and accept the things that you cannot control. And if you live in that space of, hey, I'm actually enjoying the journey of where I'm going, I'm going to get to where I'm going eventually. That cures a lot of that for me. So as you were saying that, Nasima, that was kind of my thought. Because what if you didn't go to the school you wanted to go to? What if you went to a different school? What if it, we can what if our lives all of the time, What if you stayed in that relationship? What if you had or didn't have those kids? What if you moved or didn't move, right? You could what if yourself to death, and that is not a healthy place to be in.
But I think more often than not, people just don't think that not making a decision in itself, it is making a decision, but they don't make decisions out of fear, like you said, of failure. And I think that holds so many people back because, like you said, as long as it's done from a place of integrity and it's fixable, make the decision, take the action.
Patty, you're muted, sweetie.
I think that's a good segue to the next part of the comments that you made in the email, the note that you put out, which is, we're blind to our blindness. We have very little idea how little we know. We're not designed to know how little we know. And I think a very basic example of this is in the decision-making process. Someone mentioned analysis paralysis, I think, or, where I'm from, we call it study long, study wrong. You're overthinking, right? And if you're overthinking a decision, then you don't understand what your blind spots are. In general, you don't understand what your blind spots are. Overthinking also, I think, creates more blind spots, and I'll explain. So a very basic example of this is, have you ever heard of the red car effect? So let's say that Lady Jade is out shopping for a red car, and then as she's literally driving, let's say that it's a 45-minute drive to the dealership she's going to, she probably will notice at least 45 red cars. On a normal day, she might notice one or two. Those 45 red cars might have always been on that commute, but she's only noticing the 45 because she's focused on going to buy a red car. And another great example of this is, if you want to try it, you can. And if you're listening, you can try this at home, is you would look around the room, and I want you to identify as many items that are brown that you possibly can. We're looking at the color chocolate brown. Look around the room. How many things can you find that are brown, right? So, okay. So your eyes, let's say, Jade, you looked around. Did you see anything that was brown? Okay. So let's say you saw a few things that were brown. Now, in your mind, you might have saw something that was beige, but you called it brown because you wanted to complete the assignment. You wanted to get ahead. You were like, okay, that might not be considered chocolate brown, but hey, it's hazel, or hey, that was a nut. It's beige. That's considered brown. You might have said, okay, I've got to figure out what's brown around me. Therefore, I'm counting all these things. I'm looking at iced tea right now. I was even looking at like a burgundy water bottle that I could have called brown right in front of me to my left. So now the idea here is that because you're focused on something, you would turn beige to brown to finish the assignment, to win, to get it done, right? You were focused on that. Now, if I turn around, and again, I said, look around you didn't notice anything red in the room. Now, if I say, go look to see how many red objects were in the room, your brain would probably find a few of them, but you didn't notice a single red item while you were looking for brown. You have no idea what your blind spots are. You are laser focused on one thing, and that's going to show up for you and manifest itself in multiple different ways. Okay. So what you're focused on is exactly what is going to grow, and that creates blind spots.
That's good.
That can be done in positive or negative ways. So in the decision-making process, just the awareness of that alone can help. So Nasima's message is stop being on the fence and make a decision. Because if you fail quick and you stop with the analysis paralysis, you make a decision and you learn from the results of that, whether or not that action was favorable to you, then you're going to continue to move forward, take the feedback that you got from yourself or others, and continue to progress. The idea here is with the thought of everything starts with a decision. If you don't make the decision for whatever the goal is, whatever the intent is, if you don't make the decision, even from a psychological or subconscious level, the actions aren't going to start following. And then, of course, if you don't become aware of these blind spots that you're not wired to be aware of, then you're also going to have a hard time improving that decision-making process, going forward.
Which is why I believe in the power of the village, right? One of the things I say all the time, it takes a village to raise a child. What happens to the village when you become an adult? And I think that your village, and we're talking about a true village, a true tribe that truly loves you and wants to see the best. We ain't talking about them hating friends on the sideline that really just wants to point out everything you're doing wrong, right? We're talking about forward momentum, village, and tribe. I think that when people truly love you, they're not yes men. And they will help you to see your blind spots. Because to your point, Patty, we all have them, right? It is hard if I'm driving a car physically and I look at my blind spot and then I start veering into my right lane and I hear a horn honk, right? Like I clearly missed the blind spot. But what's interesting, I also get frustrated when I am riding in a car and I see the passenger looking back as if I don't know how to drive. However, that passenger is also doing me a favor because from where they are sitting, they can see something that I can't, right? And so that is the importance of who you surround yourself around, who you allow to pour into you. And again, obviously you want to do it and have those people in your space that truly care about your growth overall, right? It's not a competition, it's collaboration, and that they truly want to see you win. But if we continue to isolate ourselves, which a lot of trauma sometimes makes us want to isolate ourselves and not be around other people, then we cannot get that constructive feedback and grow. So
that I think that the example of all of the awareness, right? Just the red car example is it's a really good one. That is actually called your reticulating activation system, your reticular activating system in your brain, which is the basically the filtration system that your brain has to filter out what you see more of and don't, right? Because imagine how overwhelmed you would be, right, if you fully were aware of all of the things and the impact of those things around you at any given moment. I don't think a person would be able to function, right? And if God created us and we are designed perfectly, the reticular activating system is also designed to help keep us focused on certain things, right? And so that decision or making decisions, even having a decision to rely on your tribe or who you surround yourself with, that's a decision in itself, right? And so Lady Jade, when you were saying that, it made me think of kind of the next point, which is getting advice and feedback and help. And not everybody has great input or should be consulted in your decision making. So how have you guys handled that in the past when people have opinions that they probably shouldn't have about the decisions that you make?
how do you determine that? How do you determine who should have an opinion and who's not? Can we start there? Like, just because you're I really want to go to Patty on this one. How do you determine who is allowed in your space to actually have input? And are they only allowed in certain categories depending on where you put them?
I don't take advice from anybody who doesn't have the results I'm looking for. I appreciate your opinion. I'll have the conversation with you as a matter of a sounding board. If you're not doing what I'm looking to do and you don't have the results I'm looking for, I'm not interested in your advice.
Mhm.
Now, that's a very simple rule that I have. It's not even, it's like embedded in my DNA. I'm not looking for your advice. I don't want your advice. I don't need your advice. If you don't have what I have, you're not even going to get me to listen. If I just had a flashback to us sitting in the hotel room in San Francisco before my event, and I thought about how we were talking as women. That's a different setting, right? And as women and friends, like when you're talking about friends, you don't have to have a harsh exterior about how you experience life. I was just talking to someone about a relationship, and then I said, "But honey, don't take relationship advice from me. I don't have a single proof of concept to show you." So honestly how I feel. But I think as women, we do get together, we talk to each other, and there's some sound moments of advice that we give each other that often we don't follow. So I think I want to say, I wanted to preface it with that, because it's not about my personal friendships and girlfriend relationships. I don't keep anybody near me that I don't have respect for, personal or business. I don't have the ability to fake my feelings. I don't have the ability to put a smile on when I'd rather frown. So I don't have relationships in my life in my personal life that I wouldn't enjoy conversating with about life. Now that I put that away, just in case some of my childhood friends are listening, I'm not going to take advice from you if you're not doing what I'm trying to do. When I was a kid, I didn't have to be accountable to anybody because, again, like many of you listeners know, I had an abusive father. I was pretty much on my own for a lot of things. And instead of complying, I decided that I was going to make my own money and make my own decisions. I started working when I was 14 years old. So I have a problem with accountability and authority, but I also do have a lot of respect for people that give me their advice and opinion. So for how that answer applies to me, I'm looking to become a $500 million branch. I want to gross over $12 million a year in revenue. In order to do that, I have engaged the one person in the country that I know of that will put me in a coaching program that's going to teach me the steps of how to do that, who's done it year after year again at that same number. So that person can teach me how to do that. Okay. I can't talk to anyone else about that because no one else knows how to do that or has a proof of concept. So that's why also I'm very, very leery about advice that you get from coaches and gurus and courses for folks that don't know what they're doing, are not tenured and have experience. There is no substitute for experience. So you should not be a sounding board or a whiteboard for someone that has not accomplished what you've accomplished now or what you want to accomplish. So for many of the people who are young entrepreneurs listening to this, what you can learn from me is sales. What you can learn from me is how to study and regurgitate information in a simplistic way to help gain the attention of your audience and help to solve problems from them. What you can learn from me is how to earn 7 figures consistently and build a real estate portfolio. There are things you can learn from me that I can prove that I have accomplished. But what you can't learn from me is there's a long list too. So I think you should filter it out when you're talking about professional advice to folks that have accomplished what you want to accomplish, whether that is building a community, whether that is transitioning from media to real estate, whether that is, doing sales and building a company. Those are different things that you can learn from people that have what it takes to teach it to you because they've done it. From an idea standpoint, you can read a book, watch a YouTube channel. But if you want advice from someone, spend that time with someone that's actually done it.
And the facts, first of all, big facts, number one. But number two, the next thing I think about is the person's like intent for me, right? Who are they? Like, are they genuine in their desire to see me win? Have I discerned that this is somebody who genuinely has my best interest at heart or wants to see me succeed, even if it is a transactional relationship, even if I paid for coaching or paid for mentorship, right? Then in that case, I would think that you would want my success and my results. Or if they're friends or people around you, coworkers in an environment where someone's gunning for your job or your position or wants to be, there's jealousy, all of those things that can exist. I would just also make sure that, if you're actually seeking guidance, it's from someone who genuinely wants to see you win. Yeah.
I think everything y'all are saying is great. I just want to offer another perspective too, because y'all dropping gems. Like I 100% agree. I don't know what the word is that I'm looking for. Obviously, I wouldn't take. Well, I guess I would kind of take advice. See, I'm one of those people that have always learned from people around me from their failures and their mistakes, right? So And that's if people are, and that's why I think it's important to report the process and not the progress all the time. Because if you tell me how you messed up, if you tell me where you went wrong, I am probably going to avoid that. And it's probably going to make my journey a little bit simpler, easier, like get straight to the point. You know what I mean? Because I do believe that there is power also in that, right? Like you say, you don't never either, you never fail, you always learn something. So I tend to be a little leery of somebody who's only sharing with me all of these successes. Nah, I want to know where you messed up along the way as well. So that, because now I'm just looking at where you are, or you know what I mean, where, like, so I think that there's something to be said, it's just like the word says about lest ye be like a child, right? And children are so privy to just be paying attention and learning and observing and soaking in. That's why when you cuss around a child, they turn around and they say a cuss word because they don't know at that moment. So I do want people to also be vulnerable enough to share with me where they've literally jacked up. I honestly feel like even with my friends, when they ask me for relationship advice, I feel like, why can I give relationship advice? What qualifies me? Not because I had a successful marriage, because I have jacked up in every single way possible. And I realize that I've jacked up, right? And I don't want my friends to make the same mistakes as me. I want them to care about themselves and their hearts and their decision making and not ignoring red flags and all of this stuff like I have. So and then what you do with the advice is what you do with it. And yeah, all advice is not for us. And we kind of know when we're hearing it, like, yeah, nah. I mean, like, love them to death, but I ain't listening to that, So
Yeah, I don't disagree with you on that. Of course, I think if you talk to someone who's accomplished what you want to accomplish, whether that's a 40-year long happy marriage or a multi-billion dollar business, whatever that person is, I think that their testimony is going to be filled with more failure than it will be success stories.
True.
I just tweeted the other morning, yesterday or the day before, I said, the key to success is to celebrate the loss just as you would celebrate a win, because it gets you closer to the goal. So I don't disagree with you on that. But what I do caution on from what you said, where I do disagree, is that there is a period in our life where we're curious, where we're young, we don't know, we're not listening to advice, but we are observers. Yep. And in that phase of observing and in that phase of discovery of life, where you're just really figuring out what your interests are, and as you're looking, you do see a lot of wins and losses. Thinking of my daughter, who's a young teenager in her senior year in high school, and girlfriends around her have relationships and they have experiences. And in her mind, she goes, I'll never be like that. I'll never do that. I'll never make those decisions. And I laugh and I think, oh, honey, you just haven't had the right advice from the right liar to feel that way and to be that stupid that you've observed from your friends, because we're all that stupid when we're blinded emotionally. So there is a stage in life, not to say a young teenager, but even in your early 20s, even in your early 30s, where there's a massive amount of curiosity. So the observation of those around you are important. It's important to the formation of your thoughts and your desires and your goals. But I do think once you have a sense of a clarity of who you are and what it is you're trying to accomplish, it's more advisable to drown that noise. That you don't need the same reference points and examples anymore. The development of wisdom really comes through the trial and error. So at some point, like you said, when I was young, you offered the scripture, and I can share one that came to mind. When you're young, you think like a child, you act like a child, and then when you grow, you put away childish things. So it is, in some ways, there is a benefit to this observation and absorbing information through, visually, and just learning and having this curiosity. But I think the idea here is that you want to get very comfortable with who you are and what your path is. And even if that changes, be decisive and make a decision, and then start cutting out certain opinions and noise that comes in that might deter you from that and create some doubt. I always also used to tweet that doubt is one of the most destructive seeds that you can plant. And if you are observing others quite a bit, then you might have a little bit more doubt. Then you might say, well, they tried it and it didn't work. An example that just came to mind is the gentleman who is the creator of the On shoe. When he was a child, he was bad in school. So, On, they're the cloud shoes, the new, like, you kind of see them everywhere now.
Oh, yeah. The cloud shoes. Yeah.
Right. So the on shoe, so the gentleman who created those as a child didn't do well in school. And so he couldn't keep his attention in the classroom. So his parents put him in a run club. Then he started running. And then in that run club, he found his passion and he continued to carry that through his adult life. And in his adult life, he decided that he wanted to create this shoe. And this shoe was going to be beneficial to the process of running in multiple different terrains. And he wanted to have a certain level of comfort for long distance running and long exercise periods of time. So he pitched it to Nike, and Nike said, this is nothing revolutionary. If we wanted this technology, we would have figured it out by now. If the market wanted it, we would have figured it out by now. And they rejected him. So he started his own. And when he started his own shoe, and you might not see this now, but you might want to go look into it, is that this On is the brand, and it's everywhere, and it's exploded, and he's become a multi-billionaire from being a bad student and getting kicked out in the class. Now, just imagine if the failures of his peers and the rejection would have been absorbed from him, instead of being extremely laser focused and having an irrational belief in what he saw was a need in the marketplace for runners and people like himself. And the advertising strategy that changed the game for him wasn't pitching the technology. He would go into the stores where he wanted them to carry the shoes because they were rejecting the technology. They didn't understand it because it was maybe overcomplicated. He said, y'all, put the shoes on. Let's go for a run. So he would take the buyers and the people that made the decisions about what shoes goes in the store, put them on his feet and go for a walk or run. When they felt the difference, they made the commitment. And in turn, he became a billionaire. So there is some benefits to drowning out that noise.
That's a great story. I did not know about that one. Oh, wow.
That's so good. That's so good. Well, and that leads to something that I've been thinking about for a couple minutes now. And Rita put this comment in the chat. And she said, integrity is the key word. I made a decision to leave an organization because of its integrity. I'm sad, but at the same time, I'm not comfortable with an organization that doesn't share my same values. So, and what I wanted to extract from that is that sometimes the decisions that you make are hard decisions and they don't actually feel good, but you know that you're making the right decision. And so in the example that you just gave, he had to decide to keep persevering. He had to decide to keep developing this product, and he had to decide to keep showing up to sales meetings, and he had to decide to keep doing all of those things, right? And I can think of a whole bunch of scenarios where we have to make decisions that are uncomfortable. And my mom used to say this when I was little, like it's cemented into my brain. But she used to say, do what you want to do what you have to do first and what you want to do second. That's what she said to me. And I had to make a decision to do all the things that I had to do every single day. And if I didn't, there were consequences. But that lives with me as an adult. There are days where I wake up and I don't feel like doing a single thing. I don't want to deal with work. I don't want to deal with pressure. I don't want to deal with relationship. I don't want to deal with people. I don't want to cook. I don't want to meal prep. I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to do any of those things that I absolutely know that I need to do. And so can we talk just about that a little bit, kind of the uncomfortableness of having to make decisions that may or may not be approved by others, but really for yourself that are good decisions, but they hurt, right? And the best example I can think of, leaving a relationship, leaving somebody, breaking up with someone, it hurts. It feels like the worst thing ever, but you have to make a decision to prioritize yourself, right? So how can we give someone some advice, tactical, practical advice to deal with themselves while making decisions that they know are the right and beneficial decisions, but hurt in the process?
Go, Jade.
This is a new concept for me because I've always been the person that wanted. I've never been comfortable, and in the sense of even in career, I've never been satisfied. No matter how much I've accomplished, I'm always like, okay, on to the next. I was never taught to celebrate, none of that. So that's not my comfort. My level of comfort was probably more so financial, right? It's like, let me stay in a place where I know that I am earning good money, because I know that I can pay my bills, I can take care of my family. So it wasn't just me, riding this wave or whatever. But what I've realized after having to step away from a career that I had for so long is that the true comfort is on the other side of being uncomfortable and making those tough decisions. That is where you truly find peace. I think it's just like if you've ever heard when people say, I thought I knew what love was until I met X, Y, and Z, right? Well, I thought I knew what peace was until I actually experienced it. Then I look back again, like we said earlier, hindsight is 2020. When I look back, I'm like, man, I've been holding my breath for probably most of my life.
Mhm.
And you continue to wake up every day and choose peace. So I think that when you choose things that are fruits of the spirit, um, sometimes that is uncomfortable. I remember hearing this message a long time ago that talked about straightening your teeth. You put braces on your teeth. If you ever experienced braces on your teeth or even on your legs, there's a discomfort involved, right? Every time you get those wires changed, there's a discomfort involved. But in that discomfort, there is a straightening going on. There is a fixing. There is a perfecting going on. It's like putting, the glass in the fire and how the diamonds are made. Like, if we continue to just only seek comfort, there'll never be any form of growth. So yes, life, there are tough decisions that are made. But I'll go back to what Kaylani spoke on earlier. If you're making a tough decision and there is integrity involved, boy, God works all things together for our good. Point blank, period, nothing to be said. Yeah, and so it may seem dim for a while. I think that anytime we leave something that's comfortable for us, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a job, whatever it is, family members that we have to distance ourselves from, it feels like a death. There is a mourning involved. So I think that we need to make sure that we're not afraid of the discomfort that comes from the mourning and stay stuck, right? Because in the morning, which is like the next day, and then the day after, and the day after, it continues to get better. This girl just posted this video on Instagram. She posted the first day she broke up with her boyfriend, and she was like, I am so heartbroken. And she remixed it with herself exactly a year later, where the girl's skin is popping. She is doing great. But has she never made that decision, right? The year before, when it literally broke her to pieces and she thought her life was over, she wouldn't have been flourishing. So, yeah.
That's good, Jay.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, it made me want to talk about two things: relationship breakup and also the experience of the daily decision making you were talking about, Kalani. I feel like I'm always the harsh voice on here that says, fuck your feelings, get it done, right? And I am that person. I'm that person with myself. I'm that person with my kids. I'm that person with everybody. And but I also am that person that says it's totally okay to put your head in the pillow and cry for 30 minutes first.
Correct.
I do that a lot. I have moments in my life on a weekly basis, at least one a week, where I just stop and I have to feel everything that I'm feeling. Because as a single mother, I'm having to make decisions for every person in my household. I always include the dog. Her name is Joy. I got 5 people in my household. Joy, she needs
Wait, what happened to the puppy? Saint.
We don't need to talk about that right now. Okay. We'll bring that up later. I made a decision to get rid of that dog. Okay?
There was a decision that had to be made.
I'm crying.
Now, so it's good that we're making quick decisions now on a day-to-day basis. One of the reasons why you always see me wearing black, if you see me at the gym every day, I'm wearing a black shirt and a black pants. I got like 40 of each of them. Don't worry about it. It's not the same one. And you'll see me in a black turtleneck, it's a black pants. A long time ago, I read an article about taking some decisions off your plate. So I don't have the time to choose what am I going to wear every day. I know exactly what I'm gonna wear every day. I got 47 black turtlenecks, 47 black t-shirts, and 22 black pairs of pants. And my laundry gets done every single week. So I know what I'm going to wear every day. I got to take certain things off my plate because from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to sleep, I have to make decisions for the children in my household, for the well-being of the animal, for the well-being of my mother, for the well-being of my business, for the well-being of myself. And that is extremely overwhelming. The path that you're choosing to take and what I wish I would have known 20 years ago would have been how difficult it's going to be to make a decision to go against the grain. You are not embarking on a path that is ensuring happiness or easiness or comfort, right? You're embarking on a path that requires you to break every system of belief that you have in order to committed to the higher self that you're trying to become, the ideal self that you want to become. We talked about that on a very effective Wire group chat. I don't know what they're called, webinars, classes, workshops, and that's available on Kalani's website. But you have to decide, you have to be very honest with yourself if you're going to take an inventory of where you are right now. And then if you take a moment to write a very clear description of the ideal self that you want to become, that transition and mapping the distance between who you are right now and what and who you want to become has steps. Not only does it have steps and sacrifices and requirements, you're going to lose a few people. So you're going to have to get really, really comfortable with making that. If you don't want change and you're comfortable with what you have and you'd rather do other things like crochet and paint, and more power to you. This ain't for you. So don't make decisions that make your life more difficult if you don't want to see different results. So it's very difficult, and it's okay to stop and cry in the pillow first, but you got to wipe those tears and get at it, because you're not going to change without making those decisions every day. That pressure is not going anywhere if you're looking to evolve. And on the note, for women that are listening, I think we should talk about relationships more. But yeah, breakups and making the mourning. I love that you use the word mourning, Jade, because my father died in 2021, July 2021. And he died in my house. And I had to go downstairs and saw his body. And I still have never walked into the bathroom where he died that night. And at the same time, at the funeral, my dad's funeral was the breakup point between me and my ex that I spent 7 years, loving. And I didn't know for 2 years that I was mourning both of those things simultaneously, because I was good at putting it aside because I had decisions to make, right? I had things to do. And I think that when you talked about the girl doing the mashup, I've seen similar things like that. And you think about what happens is, why as women do we make decisions that go against everything that make us happy, everything that gives us a sense of security, everything that we truly want, and we make those compromises? And I think for us women, that behavior needs to be analyzed. We need to sit with that. We need to be very honest with ourselves, because it is the women that raise those standards and refuse to break those boundaries that are in very good and healthy relationships. And what I find is that men find that even more attractive. Not harsh, but boundaries. A woman that is not going to accept a certain level of behavior. So if you are listening to this and you have to make a difficult decision like that, that's where I think Jade's constant reminder of the circle of people around you is so important. If you're going through something and you need to be upheld, it's like an addiction. You're going to reach for the phone. You're going to look at their social media. Absolutely. You're going to want to call them. You're going to reach over to the other side of your bed at night and wish they were there. You're going to go through a lot of very vulnerable things. And that period of mourning is necessary. You got to get through it. You've got to push through that. And you've got to be honest with yourself about it. And there are some parts of that pain that will never leave your body. Because in fact, you shared very intimate moments with that person, and that just doesn't go away. But the decision to stop accepting things in our lives that diminish us, that take our light down a notch, or that continuously challenge us to test our compromise our own integrity and what we've promised ourselves, is going to affect everything you do. You think you can run a business if you're sitting down crying about a dude all the time? I guarantee you, if you recently went through a breakup, or you recently have gone through the mourning process of a breakup while running a business, while doing any sort of sales, I can guarantee you, if you're being honest with you, yourself, and God in that journal, you can name at least 15 times that you made bad decisions in your business because you prioritized that toxic relationship.
Yeah.
As women, we really have to stop doing that. So I'll end up.
That's the truth. That ain't anything. That's the whole truth. Well, but you made a really good point. You said we have to analyze that, like what that is. And so for me, I think I've talked about this pretty openly on the show, that, I learned, or I realized, true or not, right? In reality, right? I have two parents that love me beyond, I couldn't have better parents. Let me just say that. And those parents are imperfect, right? And they raised me in such a way to not have to deal with all of the things that they ever dealt with. But in doing that, it imposed its own set of traumas, right? And so when you think about, or you analyze why that is, why would we ever accept less? Why do we give or allow space for boundaries to be violated. And the reality is, my mom is in the chat, said what? But the reality is that that's a direct that has a direct relationship with the worth that we put on ourselves, right? And so I want to make sure that we completely clarify something, because my baby sister, she called me other day. She was so sad. Jade was with me. I answered the phone and she was like, "I'm not okay." I'm like, "Oh my God," my heart just sank in that moment. I ended up talking to her, and she had a very, similar kind of like moment where she was like, "Hey, I'm just really sick of kind of dad issues and parent traumas manifesting in my life and my current relationships." Right. And the conversation had to be, well, you're an adult now. You're responsible for those things, right? And so we actually have been literally walking through just how she's kind of interacting someone that's kind of deciding if they want to be in her life at this moment. And it's been like 3 days where we've kind of been going back and forth with this. And she said to me this morning, "I'm so glad that, one, I had you to walk me through this, but two, that you convinced me to stand on business the way that I needed to." And one of the things that I said to her was something that I learned from Patty. And in that moment, this was a new situation. And this is a piece of advice. This is not just a story tell, but this is a piece of advice. And it was this first violation. And it was, how you handle this first violation will set the tone on how you, I guess, handle everything going forward, or how he will interact with you every moment going forward. And so I'm just so proud of my baby sister. She stood on business in a whole different type of way. And I'm like, damn, I wish I knew that when I was your age. I was like, dang, I needed that big sister back then. But nonetheless, examine those things, because and work on them and fix them. It's your responsibility now. And if that's a pattern in your life, if you're dating the same person, just different body, like that is there's something to be examined there. And it's your responsibility to fix that. And anyway, I don't even know what I'm saying
And
anymore.
eliminate the excuses, right? I think as women, we're constantly making excuses for the people we care about. Ain't nobody making excuses for us. Stop making excuses for people. The standard is the standard is the standard. Patty basically was saying, if you ain't gonna respect you, they gonna know they ain't gotta respect you. And so you got to figure out what your threshold is. Is it 1 time? Is it 2 times? Is it 3 times? Because what we do is we treat our significant others like we're married to them, and that we've made a covenant under God with these people that choose to wake up and not respect. And let me not even say choose, that are incapable, right? And once you realize that somebody is incapable, instead of us lowering our standards, what we need to do is be like, hey, you're a really great person, but you just ain't for me. And we're going to cut ties right here. And I'm going to go find a person that actually is going to fulfill my core values and what I'm worth, right? So that I can do that in return. So, like, I think women are wired to want to see the best in everybody. And no, somebody needs to see the best in you to step up to the plate and do what's necessary to keep you. Otherwise, you know what? It's been a real great run. But like I said, what you said earlier, Patty, I'm the wrong one to be giving relationship advice.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say that jokingly, because I did agree with you about sharing those real experiences. But what you're saying right now is important. I know we're over, but I really think we need to say this. If you're thinking about this idea, there's a business concept that I learned from a coach that said you manage to the system, not the person. Okay. That means that if you've created a system, like Wire has a system, my system, we have a system. You have a system. That means that when the client calls, from when the client submits a loan application, from the client, there's a system in place. There's an order of operations. Now, when you hire people, you're training them to work on that system. So I'm not saying, oh, wait a minute. Well, Jade doesn't know how to read or do math. So therefore, I'm going to have to teach her that first and then put her on the system. No. I'm hiring someone that can do the things I need them to do because I have a system. So I'm not coming in to say, was Jade in a good mood today? Was Jade professional today? Did Jade turn her phone on today? No, I'm saying this is a system and this is what needs to occur, right? As a result, you can offer community, constructive feedback, et cetera, to make sure that that system is producing the end result, a happy client or whatever, a client that has new solutions or, a paycheck, whatever that end result is, right? So now in a relationship, it used to be such that men would say that, why is she single? She's pretty, she's smart, she's got it going on. Why is she single? She must be crazy. No, sweetheart, she must have boundaries. She must have standards, because she is managing her life to that system of standards and boundaries. So many women who don't need to be entertained or have meals and bills paid, for example, have a system in their life, and there's a boundary that's set. And I think women that respect that boundary that they've set for themselves tend to maybe miss out on several opportunities, because if someone can take advantage of your time, sit across from dinner from you, maybe be intimate with you, and have all the benefits of a relationship without a commitment, well, then they're going to be around, right? Is that the kind of energy that you want? Do you want that space taken up into your life? So if you have this really clear description of what you're looking for, and you understand that when that person shows up, it doesn't fit that description, are you making a sacrifice because you wanted to spend time with someone out of loneliness, out of fear, out of doubt? Or are you making a very confident decision from a sound mind that says, in this particular circumstance, you don't fit the description of what I'm looking for? And I think if we can do that in our lives and in our business and we get a good result, I think it's about time that as women, we try that in our personal lives, especially with.
That's good. Okay, can I say one? I know we're over, but girl,
it's okay. Go ahead. We started late. It's okay.
We have to stop avoiding the pain. That's what we do. We want to avoid the pain. The pain is inevitable. You're either going to experience the pain early, or you're going to look back and say, I wasted 10 years of my life when I knew in year 2, when I knew in year 1, when I knew 6 months, right? The pain is inevitable, because the reality of it is, I think we watch too many movies where, the person comes around and finally is going to be the person that you want them to be, that you have helped mold and create and communicated. And I don't really know if life truly works like the movies, where you come to the end and it's like, wow, I'm glad we stuck together in month 2 when you were crappy to me. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really think that it works like that, but we don't want to feel the pain. Here's the thing. To make a decision, business or relationship, pain is a part of the process. It's going to hurt. And if we can learn to deal with pain, then we will be prosperous. We will be okay, because the pain is not death. It just feels like death. But the sooner you face the pain, the sooner you can get through that process. Like, if I'm working out with a trainer, if I keep wanting to avoid my body hurting, I'm never going to get up and get the results that I want, because I'm trying to avoid the pain of what it feels like to go to the gym. I'm trying to avoid the pain of like just eating to satisfaction. I mean, eating to like fulfill myself, not because I want to get full, right? Like, those things are painful. We make painful decisions every day, but when it comes to relationships, we want to wait for the moment where there's a peace to finally part. No, it ain't that. Again, that's the movies. It's going to hurt. Anytime you have to let go of somebody that you love, and that's another misconception. I want to wait until I'm not loving anybody anymore to walk away. Well, you done wasted so many years of your life. Now that love is turned into hate, and now it's even worse, right? We got to be able to face the pain. I think we need to talk about relationships next time, y'all. What y'all think?
I agree. I'm ready for that war. I'm ready for that pain. I'm not here for
war. And I'm gonna be the one over here. My married friends say, it's so funny because I have, one of my married friends who I was talking to literally just this morning, and she's like, it really is hard. Like, you sacrifice, you die every day in this process, and it's like, from the sacrificial space. And I think that there are some people that that are worth that journey, because marriage in itself is hard. You ladies can attest to that. I cannot speak to that. I've never been married, but I can imagine that if you have someone that's as devoted to the growth, like that's the type of pain I want. I don't want this other kind of distracting,
But remember what you said. You've already made that covenant and that commitment to God. You fight for that. We got to stop treating boyfriends and people that we meet on the street like they're our husbands, and they ain't even acting like husbands in the boyfriend phase.
I digress. You're right.
Love y'all.
You're right. And that, my friends, is next week. So we got to talk about relationships next week. My God.
Equally yoked. Where y'all at?
Ooh.
Oh God. You know, we might need to invite somebody on to help us get through that conversation. Because that, my friends, is not an area that I am in any expert. So you know what, that might be fun. Let's see who we can bring on in the next week or two to talk about, you know, that for sure. We're gonna do that. All right, guys, thank you so much for tapping in, being such a good audience. As always, if you are not already a subscriber, please like, comment, share, subscribe, all of that stuff. Ahmed, the dating advice show. Hi, Ahmed. I didn't even know he was watching.
Ahmed.
Starts with RSVPing and showing up, Ahmed. Thank you for being.
You're never gonna let him live, huh? You're never gonna let him live.
I told you, I got a whole list for next year.
We are back, same time, same place next week. And I was gonna say something else, but then dang, I just got distracted, guys. Anyway, like, comment, share, subscribe, the whole nine, and share this, guys. Like, share the show. We are going to get very intentional about growing the show. We've been spending a lot of time figuring it out, feeling each other out, getting the vibes right, getting the conversation flowing the way that it needs to. And I think we're there, you guys. I think we're there. So I think it's time to turn on the turbos, get this thing cranking the way we want it to. So please share. And I love that we've got this avid audience of, you know, kind of OGs, originals with us, because you guys are going to grow with us. So thank you guys for being a part of this. Same time, same place next week. I guess we'll see.
Just say bye, Kaylani. Just say bye. I don't know what the long rap is. Say bye, girl. It's over. Bye.
The long rap is I couldn't find my button to do this. Bye, everybody.
Love y'all.
Love y'all.